What are you expecting Mr. Putin's reaction to be?
Well, I think the issue is that we cannot predict Putin's actions. We do see that he miscalculated quite severely. I believe he did not expect for the West, Europe, North America, and G7 and beyond to be so coordinated, so united on the sanctions. In fact, nearly copying and pasting in each case. I certainly think that his military underestimated their understanding and intelligence around the capacity of the Ukrainian army, but also just simply the resolve of the Ukrainian people. And we know this from studies. This is a citizenry that is extremely attached to their homeland, regardless of the part of the country they live in, regardless of the language they speak. And of course, we're seeing that play out in videos that are coming to all of our homes. So we can't predict what Putin will be doing. Everyone in Kyiv does think he will now try to escalate further, use further airstrikes, because his tactics on the ground are not working.
Okay, escalate to what point? I know it's extremely difficult, and we're also talking about human life, so it's extremely difficult to really extrapolate and think of worst case scenario. But given the sanctions and given this seems to be taking longer, I mean, does this, if it drags on for much longer, will he lose the Russian citizens? And does he even care about that?
I do think Putin does care about his popularity back home, but he lost the Russian citizens quite a while ago. We know from one of the most reputable surveys about the about the Russian population, called the Russian Election Study out of Cornell University. They found that only 8% of the Russian population supported any aggressive action towards Ukraine in December. Now, seeing some of the coverage of what has happened, we can only assume that this is even shakier. Of course, there's some people that are going to rally around the flag, as we say in political science, and have a national sentiment. This is a very small part of the population. Thousands of people are signing petitions. People are risking their lives and protesting. He has lost his people. This makes him actually a very dangerous and isolated figure that I'm certain the world leaders are extremely worried about.
Okay, is there anything that actually, could happen to make him de-escalate? I don't know whether it's the oligarchs and extra sanctions on them, or this, whatever happens will need to be played out over a number of weeks.
In terms of de-escalation immediately, I mean, we're watching what's going to happen today on the border. Reznikov and the rest of the Ukrainian delegation are there to meet. We'll see if there's anything in good faith being offered that is reasonable. I was actually skeptical that the Ukrainian government would agree to sanctions directly with, Belarus or on the borders with Belarus. That's where the tanks are coming from, and of course with an aggressor with violence ongoing. But they have, because they truly do want to prevent the loss of lives. I think we should not count on a de-escalation. We should not count on this not being an extremely long and protracted conflict. We should expect further sanctions, and we should expect the damage to the Russian economy and beyond, and those markets that are associated with the Russian economy, to be hit for a prolonged period of time. This is, of course, not something that your viewers want to hear. This is not what ordinary citizens living in Western Europe, living in North America, living in Australia, elsewhere want to hear. But this is now a moral stance that the world is taking against unprecedented invasion of a peaceful European country.
Who is still actually friends with Russia and will support Russia at the moment? I know there are question marks over China. I mean, apart from Belarus, but is there any major power that if China's no longer friendly and also won't help them out economically, does that, change the way Putin thinks about things?
Yeah, I think China, everyone here is looking to China and see what moves they make, what discourse they use in the public sphere. It's a little bit of an unknown. China hasn't obviously shown support for Putin in any way and has opposed the infringement of Ukrainian sovereignty publicly. I think this is positive for Ukraine and its allies, but I don't think we're out of the woods yet. We don't know what deal Putin might try to strike with China. We don't know what China would be willing to go for in this case. As far as other possible allies, I don't think Russia has that many allies that when we're talking about major markets, major economies, large countries, there is a question around how India has behaved in the Security Council. So people are keeping an eye out there. Turkey is a next door neighbor, and Turkey is a NATO member. And although in the past, maybe Erdogan and Putin saw a little bit of themselves in each other, I think Erdogan is pretty clear that his population would in no way support any closer ties or support for Russia. And Turkey has signaled that they are very much a NATO state, very much on the side of NATO and Ukraine and its allies.